Are there any questions? Now, the most basic element of this meditation has to do with the fact that, inside ourselves, we are building, a system that can connect us to higher energy in the universe, the chakra system. And as I've said many times, meditation is not religion, it's not cult, it's, nothing of that. It's simply a craft that one needs to learn in order to develop connection with God or higher energy in the universe. In every human being, there are 7 basic chakras. There are many chakras. There are chakras in the center of the palm, in the fingers, the feet. There are chakras all over the body. But the 7 most basic ones are located, in the third eye, or forehead, in the throat, the heart, below the navel, the sex, the base of the spine, and the top of the head. And each of these chakras is directly linked and connected to the spine. And the spine is the only area in a human being that energy rises. So the whole purpose of the meditation is to develop the capacity inside to open all of these chakras and allow energy to rise from the base of the spine to the top of the head to become one with, higher energy, God, spiritual enlightenment, call it whatever you want. And, you've got to realize each and every chakra has its own field of play. For instance, the forehead, the third, which they call the third eye sometimes. It's the seat of knowledge in a human being. It's the seat of wisdom in a human being. And that knowledge and that wisdom that comes from energy that's infinite in the universe, it's an impossible thing to truly enter the mind if the mind is cluttered with thinking and tension and opinions and right and wrong and all that other stuff that really drives people crazy. If we're full of that, there's no room to receive real knowledge. Intellectual knowledge, IQ knowledge, that's not real knowledge. Real knowledge comes because we are open, and we can receive energy that flows out of the cosmos that comes from an infinite source of energy. It brings with it knowledge and wisdom. It brings with it the ability to see what's real in life, what is an illusion. And it gives us the capacity to make decisions that, sometimes seem to be outrageous in ordinary living, but decisions that truly help us to get closer to God. So the opening of that chakra enables us to do these things. And these things are essential if we're going to have a spiritual life. The throat chakra is another chakra, which it's the same kind of thing. When it's closed, life is like static on a radio. Our attempts to communicate with other people fall short, words get gobbled. We really, stutter and, try everything possible to communicate, but the throat chakra is closed. As I've said many times in the Bible, they say, in the beginning was the Word. And this is really a profound truth, because every word that we utter, literally tells us how close we are to spiritual enlightenment. It's not that we sit around and talk about, religious platitudes and, stuff like that, but it's the clarity of communication, the wisdom that can be communicated, the openness in the throat chakra that enables us to truly, tune into the sound of Om. Om is really the voice of God. And every word that we utter is literally, it's almost like Genesis. It's the beginnings, and it's a reflection of exactly who and what we are, as human beings, and what we are as people opening to higher energy in the universe. When the throat chakra is open in a human being, there's clarity of communication. There's clarity of sound. And this is really essential because communicating enables us to work out our karma. Not to be better than anyone else, not to put people down, but just simply have the humility to be able to defer to other human beings, to listen to them, to speak to them, with love, with compassion. All of this takes place because the throat chakra is open. The heart chakra is another element. You understand the heart chakra, what is the seat of love? It's the seat of joy. It's the seat of all the high emotions. It's the seat of forgiveness, gratitude. And without these elements, existing inside us and in our lives, first of all, how do we function here as a human being? How do we function here as a servant of God? How do we communicate with other people if our hearts are closed? If all we can present is anger and some kind of imperious nature and that which puts people down and has no respect and is better than everybody else. We function due to the fact that we have, this kind of ego that might be a little stronger than somebody else's ego. So all of these chakras work together, and what puts them and enables them all to function is the chakra below the navel, because that is where the chi is, the power, the rootedness that gives us the capacity to open our entire chakra system. We need to be grounded. I mean, just think how powerful wisdom is, how powerful communication is, how powerful love is. All of this needs to be grounded. And that grounding enables us to do two things: to live in the world and to function on the highest levels of our humanity, and at the same time to be connected to spirit. Spirit isn't some, a kind of milquetoast type of hors d'oeuvre that comes out. It's very powerful energy. It's very powerful energy. And that energy, has to flow through us and help to create a chakra system. So we need to be truly grounded inside. We need to truly have that, focus inside ourselves, that ability to transform the human to the spiritual. That can't take place unless we are grounded inside ourselves. That grounding takes place in the third chakra. And then there's sexual energy, which I talk about quite a bit, which is, just to abbreviate the discussion, it's the place where the human is transformed to the spiritual, where the yin yang merges, the male-female principle merges. And that marriage of those two energies gives birth to the Kundalini. Now, this is an amazing, existence that goes on inside every human being. And often the thing that's missing is just consciousness, knowledge of how to do it, practice, training in how to sustain an open chakra system. And I think that's all this is about, because once we get the chakra system open, then the energy will absolutely undergo that transformation in the sexual area and activate Kundalini. Kundalini is the rocket ship that takes us to God, that enables us to go to a place in the cosmos where we can attain a state of spiritual enlightenment. So all of this works together. And all the class is about is getting the training so that we can make all of this work together. So we can develop our humanity. We can develop our spiritual consciousness and a spiritual life as living experience, not as just something that you know about in your head that sounds good at a cocktail party, you're sitting at a table and chit-chatting with people and you talk about Kundalini. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it being living experience inside a human being. That every day they live with that kind of flow of consciousness. And it really enables us to stop a lot of bullshit that goes on in the world, People deceiving themselves, deceiving other people, people that can't communicate, that have difficulty functioning in the world. I mean, all of that, absorbs itself in an open chakra system. And we have the strength to be able to transcend, and not only transcend, but transform all of that kind of insecure way of living, into a spiritual life. This is what Rudy's meditation exercise is about. This is what I learned from him. And it's something that I learned through years and years of practice that refined it to seeing what this thing is really all about. And it's what I'm trying to, in all of these classes that I teach, pass on to all of you. But by doing the exercise properly and opening and staying centered and focused and gratitude, et cetera, we're doing what is essential to build a system that can have a spiritual life. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask? I hope this is clear. I don't know how to get it any clearer, But it's not complicated. It's a very simple method of approaching one's inner life and building a system that is really capable of connecting with God as living experience, not as some intellectual understanding of the cosmology and the metaphysics and et cetera, et cetera. That ultimately just gets boring. But living experience, it never gets boring. Does anyone else have a question? Or does anyone have a question? Okay, I hope all this is clear, I just have an announcement. I've been making it all week. There'll be no class on Sunday. I'm going to be having a retreat at Stony Point, New York, at a center there. The people coming from all over the place. It's very nice. And but there will be a class next Monday. Regular classes will start again next Monday. So if there are no questions, I just say God bless you all for being in my life, for giving me an opportunity to grow and to change, and pass on everything that I've learned in my life. That's the point of all this. There has to be a next generation of this. Otherwise, this whole thing disappears on the earth, you know. So the whole point is to pass it on to people that truly want to get it. And that's it. Okay, well, God bless you all, and thank you. And I'm hoping to see you, everybody, on Monday.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stuart.